everyone. So today I'm going to make myself a face mask. I have had issues not touching my face and I know we're not meant to, and I know that I can use my sewing skills to do different things, and I've never made a face mask before. So there are a lot of good templates available online. These might be things that you want to make for your family and friends. If this one goes well, then, which actually it has done, because look, it's pretty cool. Well, I just think it's a pretty cool thing to have anyway, like good Halloween kit and things like that. But I made this out of 100% cotton. It's a wax batik on the front, and it has 2 layers of lining on the inside, which are actually a pillow cover. I would suggest that if you're making something like this, keep to 100% cotton or something that is at least a natural fibre, just because you're putting it next to your face. Now, I know that this isn't a surgical mask, and that isn't the purpose that I've made it for, but I thought it was a nice thing for me to have when I pop down to the shops. I can wash it up to, I guess, 40 to 60 degrees because it's fully cotton, the one that I've made. And it's reused a lot of things that I had, like that's Christmas ribbon. That's just scraps from a dining chair project that I did. And on the inside, like I said, is a pillowcase. So yeah, I will put the link up through SDR for where my template came from. And if you want to know how to make this, then follow along because it's all in the video to come. Okay, thanks guys, bye. So this is the template now that I've added the seam allowance. I just used a ruler and marked out a couple of points. So from the internal shape is the shape that is available on the pattern online, and then the external shape is 1.5 centimeters away. So now I'm going to cut that out with a pair of scissors and then show you what to do. Next step, I cut the template out and I have pinned it, as you can see, to keep it nice and taut on the fabric. Now, the pattern says you need to cut 2 with the right sides, which means basically folding your fabric in half and cutting all the way around the shape so that you've got 2 pieces that correlate to one another and that are like the reflection of each other. So you need to cut 2 sets of these and then 2 sets from another kind of lining fabric. All of these I would suggest trying to keep to like 100% cotton or something like that. So for the lining I have chosen to use a pillowcase. It's 100% cotton, it's really clean, I gave it a 90-degree wash, and that 4-layer protection is really meant to help. Also, you need to have something to tie it back with, which is what these little squares are. So I have chosen to tie it back with some ribbon. This is just from Christmas, and you need 4 foot of it, so I had just enough in those 2 colours. So it's going to be kind of a jazzy mask, but then there's no one really outside to see me. All right, I'm going to cut all of these bits and show you how to sew them. I have cut all of my templates. There are the 2 face sides, so that's going to be the front of the mask, that's going to be the back of the mask, and then the 2 inner lining parts. And now I'm done with my template. Okay, next part is to set up the sewing machine. Now I'm going to sew all of the middle seams down the front of the face mask, because what we're trying to do is create something that fits your face. So I've set the stitch guide to 1.5 centimeters, and that's from the base plate because there's a number on it. And then I literally am just going to sew down the whole front of the seam, and I'm just going to make sure that I reverse a couple of times and then just keep the fabric flowing across the stitch guide. And you don't have to tug on it or anything, just allow it to kind of flow through. Keep an eye on the shape, turn the corners where you need to. And as I come to the end, I'm just going to reverse a couple of times again, just to lock it off. Then needle up, fabric out the machine, pin out, obviously, so you don't hurt yourself. And there you have it. It's like a cool little face mask. So I'm going to finish the lining and then show you how to pin it all together. Okay, so I sewed the front of all of the masks together individually, and now I have taken one of the pattern sides to one of the lining sides, and I've pinned them the way that you want them to be seen at the final part of the mask. So with the seam allowance on the inside of both of them, so that they just look nice and clean. And I'm going to readjust my stitch guide to 1 centimeter, and I'm literally just going to sew all the way around that shape so that I close the lining to the face side of the fabric, and then that will allow us to join the 4 sides together after this point. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'll show you what happens at the end. So I have now pinned my two layers together, and as you can see here, I've made sure to offset 2 pins 2 centimeters down from the sew line. So I've done that on either side because it will leave me a pocket to put those 2 ribbons into so you can tie the mask around the back of your neck. So I'm going to reset my seam allowance to 1.5 on my base plate. Just make sure I have enough thread. And I'm going to start on one of those pins, whichever one, just make sure it's not closing off the side. And once I'm happy with the alignment, I'm going to remove that pin, put the foot down on the needle, needle in, foot down, and then make my way. And now remember that you need 1.5 seam allowance. So if you want to keep a ruler handy, that's great. I'm pretty good with my seams, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. If you think about it, the last line is at 1 centimeter. So as long as you make sure you're 0.5 centimeter in front of that line, you're going to be fine. When I get to a corner, I'm just going to turn it. And then again, just follow that all the way up and around. Where you start to get to that peak, just flatten everything out. Now there's a lot of layers under there, so just take your time going over that mound. And again, when I hit that middle seam, lift the foot up, turn everything and get the bulk out the way. And then make my way down. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to come to this last corner, as such. I'm going to turn my fabric, and then I'm only going to sew down to that pin that's in there, and I'm going to double back on myself, so I've created a little pocket to just reinforce where that ribbon is going to go. So that comes out of the machine, and then again I'm going to move down to the next pin, same thing, happy with the position, take the pin out, foot down, needle in, front and back a couple of times just to secure, and then make your way down the other side of the mask. So just give me a second to do that. So I pushed my machine away so that I could show you what happens once you've sewn all 4 layers together. So I have left the little pocket at the bottom, as you can see, so that I can turn it inside out again. I trimmed all of the seam allowance off at the top and around the 2 sew lines, as you can see, just so that there isn't that much bulk when you turn it inside out across the top of the face and around the chin. And, moment of truth, let us turn it inside out. So basically just hold on to it and, like it was a sock, push it through. And what you get is 2 of the patterns on the outside with the lining on the inside, and give it a little stretch out. So as you can see, the edges now want a little bit of an iron just to tuck the seam allowance in and give you kind of a nice clean line to insert the ribbon into. So I'm going to go off and do that, get my machine back and show you what to do next. I am pretty happy with this. I mean, even if it's not a surgical mask, it's a great bit of Halloween kit. Right, so I have turned it inside out, as you can see, which is pretty cool. And I have given it a really quick iron just because I'm kind of pedantic in that way. And then I've turned the seams in on the side so there's no raw edges showing. And now it's time to put the ribbon in. So I've got my ribbon, I can see that it's bigger than my head, so that should be fine. And I'm just going to take it and cut it in half. As such. Then I am going to tuck it into the seam, like that. And I'm going to give it a pin. And I'm going to do all 4 of them and then show you what to do next. So I've pinned my ribbons in just by tucking them into the little gap that you can see has been created by the 2 seams, and I'm just going to pin that into place as such, and then I'm going to sew just along the edge of it And remember that the ribbon's going to take a lot of pulling, so you want to double back a couple of times. Like that. And then as I'm getting to the ribbon, take the pin out. So over the ribbon and go back over the ribbon just to reinforce it. And then make your way down to the next ribbon. As I get to it, pin out. Over the top, back over the ribbon. To the end, and then reverse a couple of times just to reinforce it. And there you have it. You have made your mask. Now, I did the other side before. And as you can see, I can now tie it up. And it's a rather fetching face mask. So let's see if you want to give it a go. Yeah, I think it's a rather fun thing to do. Thanks, bye.